Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to South Church. No matter if you are present here or joining us online, no matter your background or beliefs, no matter whom you choose to love, no matter if you're here today to express your joy or find space for your sorrow, if you're here out of curiosity, you are welcome in this sacred space. In the face of much uncertainty and in the presence of love, let us spend this time together, each of us on our own unique path, and all of us enriched by the company of one another. My name is Kiper, and I'm one of a team of worship associates who have the honor of serving South Church and working with our minister, Reverend Ellen Quaadgras. Today, I'm grateful to be joined by our director of music, Jonny Peiffer, Reverend Ellen, Cathy Okhuysen, and Jen is doing AV today. Thank you. Joining us today in the pulpit is my new friend, Sheila Shea. After living on the West Coast for several years, Sheila, her husband John, and their young children moved to Portsmouth over 20 years ago. They joined South Church shortly thereafter. All three of their daughters were warmly welcomed into South Church during their dedication ceremonies and fondly remember being taken care of by Barney in the nursery. Sheila has spent much of her career in the nonprofit sector, as well as teaching ceramics and yoga. She served as the director of religious education here at South Church from 2008 to 2011, before their family moved to New Delhi, India. It's a blessing to have her speaking here today. For those in need of assistance, our ushers will be able to help you with personal listening devices and large print hymnals. We also invite you to hang out after the service downstairs for some coffee, tea, and conversation. It's important for us to remember that this building was constructed over 200 years ago and was built on the territory of the Wabanaki and Pennacook people, who were stewards of this land for generations and did not give it up. The paradox that we are forced to embrace is to use this building for love in the shadow of this unfairness. May we bring this truth into our hearts to live in new ways, to inspire action towards restorative justice, and to realign our relationship with this piece of the earth. Thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Ellen Quaadgras. I'm glad to be here with you today, and I have a few announcements for you that you can find all of them in your order of service, and there are many ways to live our values at this church. A couple that I want to lift up for you today is Trans Day of Visibility. Trans Day of Visibility is technically tomorrow. We are celebrating it today at 1 o'clock in this sanctuary, or maybe it'll be outside. You'll find out when you get here. This is a really important opportunity for those of us who are cisgender to support our friends and neighbors who are trans or non-binary in this moment. This is a very important opportunity to stand in solidarity with them. The other thing I want to lift up is that we will be creating a vision together. That's the weekend of the 9th, 10th, and 11th of May. And finally, there was another one that I wanted to lift up, which is that we are going to have a Roots Summer program this summer. If you have children who are between the ages of, I believe it's 5 and 12, that will happen this summer. You can find Jen Del Deo Berry for more information. And now Jonny has an announcement as well.
Good morning. Thank you to everyone who came out last Sunday for our piano celebration concert, and for those who tuned in online. That video is still available if you haven't checked that out yet. We had a wonderful time. And I just want to lift up, in 2 weeks, from today. We have another concert. Chris Claxton and Mike Effenberger and their duo called Time and Mercy. Mike is an excellent pianist, and Chris, a trumpet player, and both excellent improvisers. If you don't know them, please come April 13th, Sunday at 2 p.m. Tickets are $20, and links to those tickets are at the bottom of our homepage on the website and in the weekly email that goes out. Check out their recordings and get your tickets and come on, or you can just show up at the door. All are welcome. Please join us next Sunday for my first Music Sunday. We have a wonderful program prepared for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Deirdre McCachran. I am your chair of the Star Island Retreat Committee. For those of you that don't know, the Star Island Retreat is amazing. It is 3 days in the sun out on an island 6 miles off the coast, right here off Portsmouth and the Isles of Shoals. It is July 13th to 16th this year, with an option this year to stay the whole week, if you like, which is pretty amazing. You can get more information at starisland.org, or see me or my husband Joe. We both have our Star Island sweatshirts on today. We'll be at social hour. You can ask us any questions. We're currently about 2/3 full on our enrollment. We only have a certain amount of spots that the island can give us. So if you're interested, I do encourage you to go on and get some information or talk to us soon so we can get you in. Okay, thanks.
I've been a part of the worship associate team for about 2 years. I wouldn't say I was tricked into joining the group, but I really had no idea what it was all about. From my perspective, our team has 3 main functions. The first one is the operational end of things. Our job is to support the church leadership organizing these services, coordinate with guest speakers. We give feedback on the order of service. We put up the hymn numbers. We light the candles. We move chairs around. The second function of the group I would describe as layperson integration. My words. We are a bunch of volunteer church members who get to be part of the religious rituals and spiritual intention present in each service. I find this to be a very unique aspect of our church structure, and it serves a thread between the congregation and the ceremony that reflects the UU principles. I love that we value the collective wisdom of all of us. Now, the third function of this associate program is admittedly kind of self-serving. We get to be part of a radically loving, open-minded, thought-provoking group of caring, humble, and insightful people. We have an amazing group. We support each other, we listen, and we learn, and we grow together. For me, serving the church is wonderfully fulfilling, but the real impact on my life is personal. We've all basically committed to writing a self-discovery essay every 6 to 8 weeks. In doing so, I have to hold other ideas, relive old memories, send a flashlight into the dusty corner of my heart and mind, and I have to regularly confront myself. For me, the writing part is very rewarding. The talking part is scary and exciting. It's the deep thinking and the deep feeling part that brings me a sort of welcome discomfort. I look back through my notes. I've put together 17 opening words in my WA career so far. At least a third of those invoked tears throughout the writing. But don't worry, it wasn't Reverend Ellen that made me cry. It was my own self that I was discovering. I didn't know what I was getting into when I joined up with the WA crew, but I'm thankful I found my way here. And I would encourage anyone who's interested to reach out. You have a story to tell, and you'll be telling it to a highly interested, open-minded, and very loving congregation. As we light our chalice here, we invite people watching at home to light a candle or chalice of their own. Our reading today is from Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in reciting the mission statement printed in your order of service. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people and inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. In the fall of 1996, at long last, I had finally solved all of my problems. The biggest one, I didn't have a car. I was 16, and I was the smartest person in the whole world. I simply needed a way to get to band practice, a way to avoid riding the school bus, and a way to take girls out on dates that wasn't my parents' minivan. Solving these problems would no doubt ensure freedom, independence, and romance for the rest of my life. I'd been working at a greenhouse for months, saving every penny, scouring the used auto section daily. And then one day, it all came together. I landed a 1986 two-door Volkswagen Golf with 500,000 miles on it. You could probably picture it. The clouds broke open, the sun shined on my face like when God is talking. Everything was suddenly perfect. I had found the solution to my happiness, and those old problems were now in the rearview mirror of a tired European hatchback. I enjoyed this new perfect life for a few blissful days until the car stereo stopped working. It's no big deal. For music, I just took my battery-operated boombox, put it on the passenger seat next to me, which worked out well because the passenger door had been stuck in the closed position, which was fine because if you could open the door, the plastic covering the window that wouldn't go up would fall down. Soon after all this, my parents informed me I'd be paying for gas, registration, I had to run family errands, and I had to learn that you actually need car insurance. And then one day, I was late for school because the battery died. I realized something standing there in the driveway. In my memory, it was raining very heavily. I realized that it could be a possibility that there will always be more problems in life. Looking back, I can appreciate all the steps that led to buying that first car, all the little levels I had to unlock. I learned about keeping a job, saving money. I learned about the used car market, the DMV. I learned about jumper cables and zip ties and duct tape. I learned to appreciate the things that I have. If my parents had simply bought me a car, I probably wouldn't have learned all those lessons. And this whole concept is a fascinating paradox to me. Problems provide opportunities for growth. And while I love the idea of growth, I actually don't want any more problems. Sometimes we do hard things that we know are good for us, like running or eating kale. And a lot of times, we do hard things and we don't find out till much later how transformative that process actually was. It's not our response to comfort that forces us to adapt and become more resilient. It's our response to stress that pushes us to grow. Since we know that problems and challenges and obstacles are essential to our well-being, how do we embrace them in a spiritual practice? For me, it's finding a little humor in the universe's version of tough love and finding surprising joy in the act of the relentless solving of problems. Please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, Meditation on Breathing, number 1009 in your teal hymnal.
So you can follow me along with me or pick any of the three parts. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
So we're going to mix it up a little bit today, and I am going to tell the time for all ages, and I get to hear Sheila offer the sermon a little later in the service today. So if you are a child or if you're feeling young at heart today, you are invited to come forward so you can see a little better or hear a little better. And while you come forward, I'll share a little introduction to the story, which is that we are a pluralistic faith. Pluralism is one of our core values that we are re-articulated recently. And pluralism means that we honor many sources of wisdom. We honor nature as a source of wisdom. We honor poetry as a source of wisdom. We honor one another as a source of wisdom. And we honor many faith traditions as sources of wisdom, including our own Christian heritage, including Buddhism and Judaism and Islam and Hinduism. Now, Hinduism, I did a little research, turns out it's the third largest religion in the world. It's also, some say, the oldest religion in the world. It also is, it heirs from the Indian subcontinent, and many of the practices that we are familiar with, spiritual practices like meditation and yoga, come from Hinduism. And one thing I love about Hinduism is it has many interesting and colorful gods. And it has many interesting and colorful stories about those gods. And one of those stories I'm going to tell you today. This is a story about Ganesha, the remover of obstacles. And you can see a picture of Ganesha in your order of service or right here. And you will notice that Ganesha has the head of an elephant. You can actually forward that now. That's really clear in that slide. And today's story is how Ganesha got that particular head. So, once upon a time, there was a god named Shiva who was married to Parvati. And one day, Shiva decided to go out and run some errands, and Parvati stayed home and decided to do some sculpting. And she created a sculpture of a little boy. And she loved this sculpture so much. It had such cute, round cheeks that she decided she wanted to make it come to life. So she breathed life into this sculpture, and it came alive. But all of this working with clay and dirt got her hands dirty, so she decided she needed to go take a bath, and she asked this little boy that she had created, who she named Ganesha, she asked Ganesha to please stand guard at the door and make sure that no strangers come in while she's taking her bath. So Ganesha goes and does that. And remember, Ganesha has never met Shiva, his dad. So when Shiva comes home and wants to come into the house, Ganesha says, no, you can't come in. And that made Shiva a little mad. Actually, it made him very mad. Actually, it made him so mad that he chopped off Ganesha's head. Yikes! So Parvati, who heard this, came running, and she's furious. She's like, what have you done? And then Shiva, understanding suddenly what he did, he's also very upset, and he panics. And he runs around, and he's like, oh, here's an elephant head. I'll put this on Ganesha's body. And Ganesha comes back to life. Thank goodness, that's a relief. But it ends up with this, it ends up being a little unusual to have an elephant body, an elephant head on a human body. On the other hand, it also turns out to be not only unusual, but also useful, because Ganesha was also a god like his father and would become the remover of obstacles. And in Hinduism, elephants represent wisdom and strength and understanding. And having really large ears of an elephant helps you hear the needs of your people more clearly. So people who are Hindu pray to Ganesha to have their obstacles removed when there's an important event coming up, like a wedding or a birth of a child, or when they're buying a house or a car, for example, because they want the way to be smooth. So that's the story about how Ganesha came to have the head of an elephant, and a little bit about who he is and what he does. And as you use, we get to wonder about stories like that. Like, what wisdom does that story have for each of us? What kind of do you take away from that story? And it's not always obvious right away. It wasn't to me, for one, although I did do a little searching about it. And one meaning that I read about this story was that sometimes even gods make mistakes. But sometimes those gods fix those mistakes. They make amends. But sometimes when those gods make amends for their mistakes, the results are a little bit unusual and unpredictable. But sometimes even unusual and unpredictable results end up being useful. So I like that version of the story, but you get to keep wondering what about this story might make sense for you. And you all, our young people, get to wonder in your religious education classes, and we all up here will get to wonder also for the rest of the service today. And with that, I invite our young people downstairs for your classes, and we will sing you out.
In months with 5 Sundays in 2025, the Board of Trustees has approved the use of the entire collection plate on the last Sunday towards paying down the principal on a loan we took out to upgrade South Church and the Meeting House. In addition, a small group of South Church members has offered a $3,000 matching challenge to the congregation. For every dollar collected from the congregation during the 5th Sunday, the group will match the collection dollar for dollar up to $3,000. Please give as you are able. The offering will now be gratefully received.
this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Can you hear me? Cool. Today, on Trans Visibility Day, we honor the strength, courage, and contributions of transgender individuals while acknowledging the challenges they continue to face. We also hold those no longer with us in our hearts, their lives, struggles, and resilience guiding us towards justice and love. This meditation is in honor of our trans community. Find your comfortable seat. Let your hands rest wherever they are comfortable. And come home into your body in a way that feels safe and supported. Consider softening or closing your eyes. Let's all take a deep breath in through our nose and release it out your mouth. Again, breathe in fully. Exhale completely. Feel the ground beneath you, steady and strong. Feel your spine lengthening up towards the sky. Take this moment of stillness and breathe. Now turn your gaze inward. Listen. Hear the courageous voices of those who speak their truth. Breathe in and listen. With this inward focus, see the strength and authenticity of our transgender community. See the bravery it takes to live openly. Breathe in and see them. From this deep awareness, expand. Open your chest and sit a little taller. Radiate love, support, and the courage to create space for all to be seen. Breathe in and turn your heart outward. Bring your hands together in prayer position at your heart, if that feels comfortable. Let's take a breath. Breathe in. Bow your head into your heart and offer a silent wish or blessing. May all transgender individuals find safety, freedom, and love. May it be so. Thank you for joining me on that meditation. Now, we invite anyone up who would like to light a candle. You can come up, or you can take a moment of reflection on a joy or a concern that you're holding. And if it is something that you want us to know about, please take a moment to write your concerns on the yellow pastoral card in the pew. Yeah, so I guess come on up. Good morning again. If I move around a lot, it's just because I'm nervous. In the early months of 2004, I was shopping at Marshall's, the store over on Woodbury Ave in Newington. You guys know that store? Yeah, it's awesome, right? I was looking for bedding for one of my daughters. After finding what I needed in the clearance section, of course, I rounded a corner with my shopping cart, and I nearly ran over a garden sculpture of who else but the Indian deity Ganesha. This plastic garden ornament stood about 2 feet tall, and it was very obnoxious. Ganesha was spray painted bright pink with rosy cheeks. His oversized elephant head was adorned with crowns and jewels, and his enormous ears were pierced everywhere, like my teenage daughter's. The lower half of his body was that, as we learned earlier, of a pot-bellied boy, right? This added to his elaborate design. And he had a smirk on his face that seemed both boyish and all-knowing. So I squatted down just to look at what he was sitting on, and what I saw was a small rat. Apparently, this is how he got around. I laughed a little, wondering why would anyone put a boy with an elephant head in their garden? Little did I know that 8 years later, Ganesha would become a meaningful part of my everyday life. In 2012, our family moved to New Delhi, India, to live and work at an international school. From the moment we arrived, Ganesha was everywhere, in taxis and tuk-tuks, in schools, outside businesses, and on the entranceway of everyone's homes. I learned that Ganesha was the son of Shiva and Parvati, 2 significant deities that we learned about earlier. And while he is most well known as the remover of obstacles, Ganesha is also the bringer of good luck. He's a patron saint of arts and sciences, and he's the diva of intellect and wisdom. Throughout India, it's common practice to call upon Ganesha when beginning something new. As we settled into our apartment at the American Embassy School's campus, I started to explore. I wandered around the lush gardens, and I walked into and out of faculty housing, around sports fields, and around the 3 schools there. After teaching ceramics in the afternoon at the high school, I walked and I walked. I loved getting lost on this campus, but I also knew that I was safe within the school's confines. One day, I stumbled into a garden with overflowing, blooming hollyhocks. It's on the cover of your service. Of course, I immediately took my phone out and started taking pictures, not noticing the large statue that all the flowers seemed to lean towards. Following their reach, I found Ganesha. It took me several minutes to recognize him. He was no longer that tacky caricature from Marshall's, but he stood with a commanding posture and weapons in 2 of his 4 arms, reflecting his many roles as a divine protector and warrior, representing both physical and intellectual strength. I fell in love with the sculpture. Sorry, John. And I visited it nearly every day for 2 years. While I knew he was a multifaceted deity, I held tightly, very tightly, to his ability to remove obstacles and pave the way forward. In my small Western mind, I thought it would be great, and I'm a little embarrassed to say, I thought it would be great if Ganesha and my Christian God got together and they could remove my obstacles for me. Like, that's pretty embarrassing. I learned, again, that Ganesha is one of many, and some say millions, of deities that Hindus worship. Deities serve as a personal representation of the supreme god Brahman. Brahman is omnipresent and infinite, existing both in the living and the non-living, because the universe and all of its beings are one. I also fell in love with Hinduism. Yoga, which is deeply rooted in Hinduism, traces its origins back to the ancient spiritual practices. And the word yoga comes from the Sanskrit word yuj, which means to yoke or to join. In Hindu philosophy, yoga and meditation are considered two of the four paths to spiritual realization. In Delhi, I started collecting statues of Ganesha, as an American does, and I placed them all around our little apartment, hoping that by keeping him in view, he could also see me. I would hastily sit before these statues and ask Ganesha to remove my obstacles, my worries, my fears, my anxieties. Yet I never sat long enough to listen to Ganesha or to myself. And if I did pause, all I saw was his playful smirk, as if he were really enjoying my struggles. I have to laugh at myself. I had learned that Ganesha was actually the one who placed the obstacles in our paths, which kind of ticked me off. And this is when my daily battle began with Ganesha. It was much like a meditation practice, but it was filled with resistance. So some of you might know that I'm a little stubborn and I'm slightly impatient. So when my demands weren't met, I totally lost it. So what do you think I did? I regressed. So I adopted my tough girl approach, which some of you also might recognize, making these passive-aggressive demands. And sometimes I even gave Ganesha the silent treatment. Embarrassing. I learned mudras, which are gestures meant to help your energy flow, especially those designed to remove obstacles. So I pulled and I pushed like this. I pulled, and I made this face like this. And I was so mad all the time. So as you can imagine, my energy was a little rough and way too forceful. I was so stubborn, and I couldn't sit long enough to truly listen. Ganesha, it seemed, triggered me in ways I wasn't prepared to face. After a few years, we returned home to Portsmouth, and I faced challenges that required more than a deity to remove my obstacles. I was diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease where my own immune system attacked my healthy tissues and organs. When I contracted Lyme's disease one summer, my already fragile immune system collapsed. I ended up in the hospital with complications that left me scared, and not just of the illness, but of showing vulnerability. That's what I was really scared of. I wasn't forthcoming with my kids about why I was in the hospital, and I refused visits from my friends and my closest neighbors. I worried that they would see me as weak and in need of help. So I shut myself off and denied myself the space to recover. For years, I demanded answers from the doctors, from my Christian God, from Ganesha, and even from my husband. I channeled that frustration right into anger at my body, at myself, and of course at Ganesha for not fixing what I couldn't. And as you can imagine, those statues gathered dust on my shelf. I tried to stay active, but I found that I could no longer return to my old life. I didn't seem like a fun mom or a partner or friend. Eventually, I dragged myself back to the yoga studio, where I was warmly embraced by my teachers, and Ganesha was there too, portrayed as a loving protector. Yoga offered me moments of quiet from the constant noise in my head and the inflammation in my whole body. But I couldn't move the way I wanted, and I was frustrated that this too seemed to be taken away from me. This cycle continued for years, but there were periods that I could manage with the right medication. I took classes that supported and nourished me physically and mentally, and every so often spiritually. I was well enough to sign up for a yoga teacher training in 2017 and 18, where I relearned how to breathe, and I experienced very short periods of meditation without self-criticism. I felt my heart crack open when I admitted to my classmates that I wished for my health to return. I started teaching right away, and I fell in love. I watched students link breath with movement and find peace on their mats. Their transformations lifted my soul, but I still struggled. If I had a flare-up, only John and my mom and maybe a few close friends would know. In my frustration, I hunkered down and tried to figure out what my problems were and how to solve them. And again, I turned to Ganesha. And I learned, or I relearned, that the obstacles that Ganesha placed were lessons I needed to learn, and that he simply represents the power I have to overcome and accept my obstacles. This well-known fact about Ganesha had been lost on me for years, like 12. But I guess that was a lesson too. Over the past year, I've taken more responsibility for my health. Through my practice, support from my family, and let's face it, the right combination of pharmaceuticals, I'm getting there. I'm learning to live with lupus rather than fight it. About 2 years ago, my friend Jen asked me what my dream was. My dream? If I could do anything, what would I do? Since leaving Delhi, I wanted to return to India to study yoga. For the first time, I tried to manifest my dream, imagining myself healthy, studying, and practicing in the heart of India. When I arrived in Rishikesh this past November, Ganesha was there to greet me. This time, all I saw was his smile and loving protection. On the first day of training, I opened my manual to find Ganesha on the front page. At the opening ceremony, we chanted a mantra to Ganesha, which I'm going to attempt to recreate, so don't laugh at me. It's called Vakatundra Mahaikaya. Vakatundra Mahaikaya. Suryakoti Samaprabha. Nirvikram Kurume Deva. Savakayashu Sarvada. Roughly translated in Sanskrit, it means, O Lord, with a curved trunk and a broad body, whose brilliance is like a million suns, please remove all my obstacles and make all my endeavors free of hindrance. When I sing this mantra now, I still pray for a clear path and just fewer obstacles. But I'm no longer afraid of knowing that the obstacles are my greatest teachers. For the next 29 days of my yoga training, we chanted this mantra every morning, every afternoon, and every evening. As my Sanskrit and mantra singing sort of improved, my relationship with Ganesha deepened. I saw him as my teacher, gently and patiently guiding me back to my heart, where I could deepen right back into my own healing. The community at the ashram held me. My teachers, Praveen Ji, Uttam, and Louis, assisted me in challenging poses I demanded I wouldn't do. They offered me blankets, pillows, and blocks to make me comfortable, and made sure I took care of myself. When I felt an infection coming on, Sachin picked up antibiotics for me. When I cried to Uttam that I couldn't find my breath, he assured me that it would come, and it did. This practice opened itself to me when I let go of self-criticism, doubt, and a lot of anxiety. When I saw myself reflected in my classmates, I recognized the patient, wise woman that I was becoming. As we said our goodbyes at the end of the training, my dear friend Silver told me, "Sheila G., now you don't have to be so strong. It's your time to soften." And we hugged with open hearts. Now back home, I've set up a few more Ganesha statues, even the ones that once seemed so tacky. For the colors and the exaggerated features, and even the rat who drives Ganesha around, they all hold special and important symbolic meaning. When I sit with Ganesha now, my hands aren't pulling and pushing, they're soft. And I stay long enough to listen. I don't ask for anything. I simply bow down and give thanks for being shown the way. The end. We're going to sing a closing hymn together. So you guys are going to remove your obstacles and sing with us. Everyone stand.
Hare Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha. Om Hare Om, Hare Om, Hare Om. Om Hare Om, Hare Om, Hare Om.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Do we all rise? Oh, stay seated. You can rise? Should they rise? Sit down. Relax. I don't do this every Sunday. All right. I'm going to leave you with these words. By John Rodell. It's called Patchwork Heart. Vulnerability doesn't mean telling others what happened to us from across a cafe table or from behind a microphone, and then going home from the experience feeling just as alone as you did before. Vulnerability means allowing your human heart blanket to get sewn together with other blankets. It's about connection. We don't share for status. We do it for synergy. We don't confess for clout. We do it to build community. We tell our tale to invite others to tell their tale. It's a sacred cycle of storytelling. We gather in a circle of trust and we say, here's my journey. Then we listen to the other journeys that are shared. We take space and we give space. We pour, then we absorb. We speak and then we listen. We are storytellers. Then we are witnesses. Vulnerability isn't just about grave digging in our past to expose our skeletons. It's about sewing quilts. Here's my patch. Here's your patch. Here's their patch. Here is us. Here is our story. May it be so.